Welcome to Building My Legacy podcast. This podcast is designed for leaders and entrepreneurs who want to leave a legacy and will provide strategies that focus upon key elements for legacy creation, determining your desired impact and its benefit, increasing your legacy's reach by engaging key stakeholders, planning, prioritizing, and executing. Here's your host, Dr. Lois Sonstegard.
Welcome, everybody, to Building My Legacy podcast. Today, I'm here with Chad Peterson. Chad Peterson is an expert business broker, and he's founder of Peterson Acquisitions, an award-winning M&A firm. We want to talk a little bit about that today because M&A maybe will be continuing but shifting a little bit in the short term. So Chad's firm handles transactions in the $1 million to $25 million range. Some exceed the $25 million, so he's done a great job with his work. He works with companies all over the United States and some international clients as well. He was named recently as the #1 ranked business broker in the United States, and he has been highlighted by Forbes magazine, Inc. magazine, just to name a few of the business magazines that have taken note of his work. What sets Chad apart from all other business brokers is his aggressive style, his humble ethic, and his work tenacity and his roots in humble beginnings. He's a self-made entrepreneur that has been in the trenches. He started and built and sold 6 of his own businesses. That is amazing. He's written a couple of books. One is From Blue to White, A Working Man's Guide to Self-Employment. And he has written Swinging Doors, A Guide to Selling Your Company. So, Chad, you have done a tremendous amount of work. And if you would just share with the audience a little bit about who you are and what brought you to this, that would be great. And then we'll get into what it is that you do and how you go about it.
Well, thank you for having me on your show, Lois, and I'm glad to be here and appreciate the introduction. A little bit about me and who I am and how I've gotten here is really through tenacity and overcoming obstacles. And that almost sounds like we're talking in bumper stickers, right? But if we were to unpack that a little bit, one, I was a commercial pilot and I lost my job. I lost my career, everything that I thought I was going to do for the rest of my life. I was in the air flying a plane on 9/11 and I lost my career 2 months after that. Then I went on to build companies and sell them. And I had a large company at the time making $7 to $10 million a year. And I lost it all in the downturn of '08. Wow. And I was yet again, just 7 years after 9/11, I was faced with a total carpet pull right underneath my feet. And I had to stay resilient and I had to keep going. And it's not because I'm better. It's not because I'm smarter. It's not because I have a silver spoon. It's not because I have more resources that I've made it to where I'm at. It's because I think about where we're at and I huddle with those closest to me. And I take massive action towards what I need to do to keep going. And I think everybody's there right now during this coronavirus. That's where everybody's at, is there's so much uncertainty. The rug just got pulled out from underneath us, far greater than 9/11 and far greater than '08 ever was, at least acutely. 01 was a slow burn to recover from that. Fear had hit our economy tremendously. '08 was a incredibly long path to make through. I mean, it didn't really bounce back until 12, I think. 12 was a real good bounce back year where we started to climb out of it. 13, we were looking pretty good. And of course, around 2015, 2016, it started to look a lot better. Right now, we're in that same position, and the strong will survive, though those who want to figure out a way to bring themselves to the market and offer something to the market that the market can use will survive. And that's how I've made it here.
So when you say that the rug has been pulled out from under us, you do business acquisitions, you look at buying and selling companies. What do you see in terms of activity in that sphere at the moment?
Well, right now it's pretty dead. And I'll tell you why. It's not because people don't want to buy, because they do. There's a lot of people right now that are looking for businesses that are recession proof. And there are some businesses that are recession proof. I've got two businesses, actually three businesses right now that are doing better because of this recession, because their products are meant for the home and you can order online and things like that. So they're actually doing better. So it's not all bad. Remember, there's always a heads and a tails to every coin. So there are businesses out there that are moving. But the reason that things aren't really moving right now is because the banks are tightening up so bad. And so as consumer confidence goes down, so does the appetite for the banks to lend on businesses. So everything's kind of bottlenecked right now. I do believe, though, that in the next 45 days, things will loosen up. I think in the next 75 days, we're going to be climbing out of this. It's going to feel like 2013 again here in about 75 days. It's not going to be 2016 or 2016 through 2018 or 19. It's not going to feel like that, but we will be on the climb out in 45 days, feeling pretty good in 75 days. That's my prediction.
So, Chad, for a company that is thinking that they are going to sell, but this isn't the time because there won't be buyers or money necessarily available, what are things that companies need to do to get themselves ready to position themselves for that?
It's such an interesting question that you ask. It really is, to be prepared through these times and to be making plans for the future that seems so uncertain. What I would say is the most important thing right now is survival. Keep your business open, and by whatever means necessary. Right now, a lot of lease negotiations are happening. Payments aren't being made. Debt is not being paid. Now, we all know that somebody's going to have to help here. The government or somebody's going to have to help. There's going to have to be forbearance, not only for consumer products or consumer loans like mortgages and things like that, but everybody that's in real estate understands that there's going to be some sort of a hit, whether it's 1 month or 2 months or 3 months of not getting payment. So you have to protect your reserves right now, keep your business alive while not losing your employees. Employees right now are in a tough spot because they're not getting unemployment.
Right.
So right now, loyalty is everything. And if anything else, people have to be loyal to the people that they work for, and the people that employ have to be more loyal to the people that work for them. And they have to do whatever they can do to get people through this mess. A lot of people will not survive this. It will shut a lot of businesses down. Businesses that make a 10%, 12% margin, they're going to get killed by this. And there's not much that you can do about it. But those that survive it will be able to survive now and then approach how do we continue? We can ask that question, I think, in 30 or 45 days. But right now, it's just survival.
So there will be people listening to this who will say, so what are survival strategies? How do you survive?
Everybody's got to stay cash rich right now. You have to be in touch with your landlord. You have to be in touch with those who hold your leases, those, whoever you pay your mortgage to, all your debtors, you have to be in touch with them, and you have to be working deals right now. One of the greatest success stories of how to manage debt was old man Hilton, who failed several times in creating the hotel concept. People think that he just created the hotel chain, but really he was the Henry Ford of hotels. I mean, he was the one that brought the thing to us, and he had failed a couple times. And it was interesting what he did. He contacted all of his vendors, such as Coca-Cola and whoever made his mattresses, and whoever made his sheets and whoever made his hair dryers, or anything you can imagine in a hotel. And he said, hey, I've already failed twice, but here's the thing. If you would give me this latitude to not pay my debt currently, I will sign a contract with you that says that I will always buy from you for as long as I'm in business, no matter how big my business becomes. I will be married to you to always buy your products for my life and my children's and my grandchildren's life. So he secured those contracts when he was a young man. And still today,
Wow.
those mattress companies and linen companies and everything else that's in his hotels, those were the people that gave him leniency during really rough times. So that's just one example. But people have to be creative in these times and be working out deals with those that are their vendors or those that are a piece of keeping their business alive.
So if you were thinking about selling your business before all of this happened, and now it's on hold, what are things that people need to be doing in order to be positioned so that in 75 days, perhaps, when we're coming out of this, you may be a candidate for a sale?
I think what's going to happen is we're going to see at least a month or two on profit and losses. At least we can at least say a month, right? I mean, that's a month is going to be dead in the water, and maybe 2 months totally dead in the water, depending on your industry. So you got to assume that a good chunk of your income is not going to be looking good. What buyers are going to have to realize is that the business will not be of less value because you didn't show as much earnings. In other words, we're going to be looking at what the earnings were in 19, and we're going to be basing the value of your business when times were good, not taking a month or two loss of revenue and reducing the business value. I think banks are going to be lenient on that as well, because banks are going to have to understand that we went through a national crisis that hasn't happened since 1918. So it's a very rare occurrence. So those buyers that are coming to buy a business and looking to pounce right now because businesses might be cheap, I think that's incorrect thinking. I think that anybody that survives this, they if they survive it, they've earned it. And if we go to sell their business, they're not going to be hit on a loss of income because of this situation. So just survive right now and try not to worry, because if you were planning on selling, I don't think the value is going to drop out of your business as long as you can survive. And it's really just surviving and keeping your numbers looking the best they can and really reverting back to 2019 numbers. In addition to that, if you haven't gotten your taxes done yet on 2019, don't do the prototypical, beat the hell out of your taxes to reduce your taxation. Go ahead and pay the taxes. Okay. If you have the money to pay your taxes, don't write off everything. Do your books straight up. Make sure they're clean so we can look at a strong 18 and 19 number, and then we can reduce your revenue in 2020 because of this virus, but not have it really affect your purchase price as long as we climb out of this as a nation.
Interesting. So think about 2019 and what you did there. That will be sort of the staple data, won't it, in terms of where we are at. So financing, acquisitions, what will be coming down the pike? We're seeing at a government level some money being made available. I'm not sure that money is for things like mergers and acquisitions, but what do you see happening?
Well, I think that's a very good question. And I there's a lot of things that are going to happen, but I think what's most relevant to the conversation is the banks are going to be tightening up. And they're already tight right now, but they're going to remain tight because banks are the ones that risk the most, and they're not going to be as free to lend. If you remember after 2008, it was almost impossible to get a loan for a couple of years. Nobody was lending. In fact, if you wanted the money, you pretty much had to have the money already in the bank before they would lend it to you. It's like, what's the point?
Right.
We're going to go through a period like that. I think in 45 days, I think we'll start climbing out of it, but banks are still going to be tight. So here's really what people need to hear. This is very important. If you want to go get money, you are going to need to be helped by a professional that takes you to the right place to get money. Let me explain that. So let's just say before this virus happened, you came to me and you wanted to buy a business and you said, Chad, I want to buy this business. Let's just say it's $2 million. I'm going to go to Bank of America. I would laugh at you. Well, not really. I wouldn't, but in my inside I would. And I would just tell you, you don't want to go there. And if they said, well, okay, well, I'm going to go to Wells Fargo, I again would say, okay, you don't want to go there either. Now, people don't understand that because these are two huge, heavy-hitting giant banks. But it doesn't mean that they have the appetite for it. So bigger is not better. So somebody like myself can help somebody that is looking for money go to the right lending institution. In short, in summation, a large part of my job is knowing who wants to do deals. And oftentimes it's banks that you don't even know about. It's smaller banks, it's community banks, it's banks that aren't as big as the big guys, and they have more latitude and more creativeness, and they want to take a bite out of the market, and they want to get out in the market and lend, and they want to get deposits in return. That's the thing. If they lend $2 million, they don't want you to keep your money somewhere else. So if they lend $2 million and you can put $200,000 back in their bank, that keeps their lending abilities going.
Sure.
So if banks are going to tighten up, you've got to get with somebody that knows what banks to go to. You can't just walk in a bank and say, hey, this is what I'm after. 9 times out of 10, you're going to pick the wrong bank. And you'd be playing with pure luck trying to operate that way.
So, Chad, before we finish, what I'd like to know is who comes to you? Why do they come to you? And what is it that a business broker provides that is important?
Well, about 3,000 people a year come to me to buy businesses, but more importantly, it's the sellers that come to me to sell their business because I have more buyers than what I can handle. Sellers are usually apprehensive because they don't know where the phone call is going to go. They don't know who's going to handle their business. They don't know oftentimes they don't even know if they want to sell. And predominantly that's because most people are doing so well, they don't want to sell. And I tell people when you're doing well is the time to sell. Here's what's going to happen, Lois, is as soon as this bounces back, my phone is going to light up like crazy and everybody's going to want to sell. If you're getting really fat and happy in business, that should be the time that you consider selling. And if 01 and 08 and now 2020 is any indicator that things can go south on you, when you're doing well is the time to sell. Also, if you've lost passion, you will lose profit. So those that come to me are sellers, and they've come to me because, to answer your question, they come to me because they're not doing well. And I say, well, I can't help you. How many people would want to buy the boat Titanic? Nobody. Right. And so, secondarily, they come to me whenever they've lost passion, and I can talk to them. And because I'm a pro at what I do, I can figure out when they lost passion. And let's just say I figure out that it's in 2017, they lost passion. I can look at their profit and losses, and somewhere between 6 and 8 months after they lost their passion, I can see the numbers just start to trickle down.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And so people that come to me, they want to sell their business, and I help them sell their business from start to finish. I handle the financing, I handle the banking, the negotiations, the contracts, the non-competes, all the legal, all the accounting, the 4506s, the life insurance, everything. There's nothing that I don't handle. What I require of sellers when they come to me is that they be ready to sell. In other words, I'm not in the business of convincing people to sell. I'm definitely not in that business. I'm in the business of when you're ready to sell, call me and I will help you get it done. And my closing ratio is 90%. I close
Wow.
90% of what I bring on.
Wow.
A lot of that is because I gut check my clients and say, are you really serious about doing this? So my percentages are probably better than everybody else because I have more of a screening process. I don't accept every single client that comes my way. They have to be ready to sell. They have to have something that I can stand behind, something that I could, if I wouldn't sell it to my mother, I'm not going to sell it to somebody else. And that's how I operate. Does that answer your question, Lois?
Yeah, it does. And so what I'm hearing is think about selling before it starts going down, before you lose your passion, because that's when you will have the greatest value. So when you're doing well is when you should be thinking about selling, right?
Yeah.
Where are the opportunities right now if you're buying and selling businesses? Where do you see it being in the next maybe 6 months?
Well, that's a good question, and I think I want to throw the most ironic thing out there right now. Fast food and restaurants are booming right now. And you know what? If you would have asked me a month ago if you should buy a restaurant, I would say no. The headaches are huge, the margins are low. But restaurants are absolutely booming right now because the grocery stores nobody wants to go there. Everybody's driving through. So I think you're going to find that that's a short-term thing. I mean, it's going to level itself out. I don't think that this is going to change the trajectory of a successful sale of restaurants after this is over. It's just temporary. But I would say that manufacturing and distribution is always a main staple in our industry or in our country. Also, transportation. Trucking is something that's recession proof. Those are solid businesses. If things still need to be moved. If you get out on the road today, you're going to see trucks everywhere. Okay, trucks are the lifeline of our entire economy. And so that's pretty much recession proof. And those that are in trucking, transportation, and restaurants right now are really doing well. And people and businesses that are offering anything to homeowners to make living at home more comfortable. That's doing pretty well right now.
So when you say things for homeowners, what does that entail?
Well, I've got a hot tub and spa distributorship that has seen their sales spike because people are sitting at home and they're like, you know what, we'd like a hot tub. So they'll call and say, we're going to be stuck at the house for months on end. We might as well get something to do. So, they'll call in and look on the internet and say, yeah, we like that one. And they're making $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 purchases online. And the hot tub gets delivered and somebody wires up the electricity and boom, they've got something to do while they're at home. So that business has actually increased since this downturn.
Wow. So the wonderful thing is, you're really upbeat about what's coming. You see us coming out of it, maybe having some downturns again, but having that ability to come up, and that those who are resilient will really be able to come through and get through this. Chad, this has been wonderful. We've gone through our time so fast. And for those of you who are listening, I have invited Chad to come back, and we're going to do a 3-part series on what is it going to look like after this has passed. How are we going to look like as companies and as employees in the workplace? Will we change how we do work? And so we will let you know of its coming, but we will be bringing it to you fairly shortly because I think it is something we need to start talking about, having a conversation about, and start preparing for. Last thoughts or comments that you would like to make before we end, Chad?
I would like to say this. Deep in our minds is a fight or flight mechanism that no longer serves us. And it was really good when caveman and cavewoman were needing to protect themselves from falling trees and lightning. And we are far evolved from that, but that old hardwired fight or flight fear instinct really does get in our own way. So with a death rate of less than 1% of this virus, but yet almost 100%, if not a 95% death rate of the economy. We need to not let the fight or flight mechanism control our lives. Stay optimistic, be vigilant, be careful, and be looking for the outcome that you desire. Don't be led by fear. That's my best advice.
Thank you so much, Chad. And for those of you listening today, thank you so much for being a part of our podcast.
You've been listening to Building My Legacy podcast with Dr. Lois Sonstegard. To book your appointment with Dr. Sonstegard, visit www.buildtomorrow.com.